my name is Aliza and I'm 10 years old. And today I'm going to teach you all science, and our topic for today is pollination. So before we start, I want to ask you, what is pollination? So pollination is nothing but the process in which plants reproduce. So there are two types of reproduction, which are sexual and asexual. So today we are going to study about the sexual reproduction in plants. So these are all the parts of the flower which do the reproduction in plants. So why is reproduction important? They need to reproduce because they produce a young ones. If this does not happen, there would be no species of plants. So the first part we are going to study is anther. So what is anther? Anther is nothing but the male reproductive part, which is this upper part, this bird type structure, and this filament is the thin line over here, and they both when are say together, we can say it as stamen. So we can say stamen is the male reproductive parts. Then this is divided into two parts, which are anther and filament. Then let's go on to female reproductive parts, which are stigma, style and ovule. This upper side of the plant of gynecium is known as stigma. Then this part, this lower part is known as style, and the swelling part at down is known as ovules. And these all when combined together is known as carpel, or you can say it as pistil. Now these, though we always know that this is petals, the colored part, then sepals, the green color part over down is known as sepals. Then this part you see is known as receptacle, and this is known as ovule, the smaller. Now we've understood all the parts in the flower, all the reproductive parts in the flower. So now we can go on of how does pollination takes place in the flowers. So now, as I told you, the petals have a colorful wall here, so it attracts insect. Now when the insects comes, they sit on the stigma, and on the anther sits pollen grains. As we have shown, the insects beats their wing. So when it beats their wings, the pollen grains go and stick to the wings of the insects. Now when it again beats its wing, it goes and sits on the stigma. The pollen grain sticks on the stigma. Then when they fuse together, it forms a pollen tube which finds the way to the ovule, where the female gamete is sitting. Now after this, from the pollen tube goes the male reproductive part, goes the pollen grain to the ovaries, then fuses together with the ovule. Now this plant ovule is the female reproductive part. So when the male and female reproductive part fuse together, it's known as fertilization. Fertilization. So after the fertilization takes place, this ovary becomes the fruit and the ovule becomes the seed, and then this flower just turns into a ripened fruit. The process which I explained only happens in bisexual or hermaphrodites, because what is bisexual flowers are in which both male and female gamete are there. So then only the sexual reproduction takes place. Then now we will go on to the asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is also known as monosexual or unisexual reproduction. So what is mono? It means one. So we can say in monosexual flowers there is only one gamete. Maybe it's male or maybe it's female. So there are many different types of asexual reproduction. So it includes growing plants from spores, growing plants from stem, and many other things. So first we are going to study about growing plants from stem. Growing plants from stem. So, well, have you ever saw a rose plant? You know how can we grow a rose plant? It's not in a sexual reproduction, it's in asexual reproduction. How it happens is, if you take a rose plant, half cut its stem, then attach it to another rose plant stem which is attached to the ground by a tape or something like that, it would grow in another tree in some after days, means another shrub after a bit of days. So isn't it interesting? Feel like if we keep our hands in the soil and then it grows into a tree and all that. So we have many examples of it, which are hibiscus and sugarcane. They all grow from stem cuttings, just like the rose plant. Now there are some underground stems. We have always studies about underground stem. When you take some potatoes and keep it in the drawer for some days, you see some buds coming out of it because it's an underground stem. Other examples are onion, ginger. So this is what is known as growing plants from stem. Growing plants from roots. Now we have studied about growing plants from stem. Now we are going to study about growing plants from roots. So the example of growing plants from root is sweet potato, carrot and turnip too. When you see, keep it with you for some days, then you will see buds appearing on them. So this is known as growing plants from roots. So we have another term which is really interesting like these two, which is growing plants from leaf. Now when I talk about growing plants from leaves, you may think of parasites and all that, but it's not a parasite. Then I may give you some examples of it, which are bryophyllum and biguna. Biguna is also known as elephant ear. Now biguna and bryophyllum, when fall on the ground, grow into a new plant, and it's not like we give them water or something like that. They find it by their own, by the leaves, and they grow into a new plant. Now growing plants from spores. Now we're going to talk about growing plants from spores. Now I say some plants do not bear seeds or flowers. They reproduce through a special structure known as, for example, ferns, fungi, and many other. These spores fall on the ground and grow into a new plant. That's really interesting, isn't it? So, as we have finished with the chapter, we should go to the summary. So, what do you think you got for the summary? If you think you got something else than this, please write it on the comment box. Now, let me tell you what's the summary. The flower part of a plant that contains the reproductive structure. As I told, the reproduction takes place in the flower. So, the flower part is the part of the plant which consists of the reproductive part. Now, the second is, we know that flower consists of reproductive part, but what are the reproductive part? So a flower consists of the following part, which are gynoecium, androecium, calyx and corolla. I'll explain you all of this in the next video. The two types of flower are monosection and bisection. Monosection means which has only one plant in it, which is gynoecium or androecium, any one of it. Now, the fourth point is the pollen grain on the anther must be transferred to the stigma. If the pollen grain on the anther would not be transferred to the stigma, it would never grow only. The pollination would never take place. Now, we all have done with the chapter. we'll just go with our key terms. So our key terms are fertilization, which means the process of fusion between male and female reproductive parts. Then second is zygote. Zygote means the fusion of zygote is the fusion of the male and female gamete, which you can say basically the fusion is like something, so I got something like an egg. Now the video, if you like my video, please like it and subscribe it. And if you find something is missing in my video, please tell me in the comment box. If you have any question related to the chapter, you can ask it in the comment box. And please don't forget to touch the bell icon on the subscribe option, that you can get all of the new latest videos which I upload twice in a week. Bye.